What up, nerds? Welcome to another youthful episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 508, recorded Sunday, December 22nd, 2024. Tonight we're talking about The Substance. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, dog?
Well, excuse me, Mr. Man.
How we doing, buddy? Good to hear from you. Good to talk to you. Ready to get into some substances here?
Let's do it.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
I've got a broken mic stand and a question.
Your
My
mic
question
just...
is, what substances are you on right now?
Just alcohol, I think. That's it. To my knowledge.
I think we fucked up because I'm just on caffeine and Dayquil. So
Not even
guess
NyQuil?
we'll see what the other guy's up to.
We're recording at night.
I know.
Randy, for the love.
It's true. The sun is down and the time is right.
Last but not least, we got our boy balancing us out, no doubt. Soju, what's up, dog?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Soju Sparkle Stains. Let's get fit, ladies. Juice by you, Stains.
Juice by you, juice by me, juice by us. Really.
So how's your substance? What substance you on, Juice?
My substance is water.
Oh, fuck. You're one of those high on life teetotalers, aren't you?
What a nerd.
God damn it.
I guess I'll be the adult tonight.
Actually, Rob better be the adult because he is drinking alcohol. Legally speaking, should be an adult.
Should be. Should be.
Man, reaction time is on point tonight.
Bob's not driving right now. That reaction time is slow.
So, yeah, we're talking about The Substance, but before we get into it, let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. We do have our January poll currently posted over on our Patreon website. If you guys support us at the $5 level or above, you get a chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this January. We've got an overstuffed poll, and we got 6 movies that we just couldn't quite get to.
We do. Sorry.
That we couldn't quite get to.
All the ladies say so.
During the year of 2024, those movies are Azrael, Oddity, Eczema or Exuma, Red Rooms, Strange Darlings, and Heretic.
Oh my lord, Bob, how are those numbers looking? Tell me just number one. What's number one?
Oddity winning. Oddity is winning.
Oddity is still winning.
Yes.
You've got. If you're listening, you've got about one more week to vote. So get over there and tell us what you want us to cover. And then the other ones we'll never cover again. We'll never speak of them. They're going in the trash.
Heretic is, I will say, solidly in second place. So there's a 1, a 2,
really? Okay,
and a third place. So there's no ties. 1, 2, and 3. Third place, Red Rooms, 19% of the vote. So solid 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, Red Rooms.
That's not
all right.
so close.
Dark Horse, though. I like that.
Yeah.
The other one.
Oh wait, Strange Darling. Where's that one sitting? I'm surprised.
I'm a little surprised that dropped. I think.
Yeah,
fourth
me too.
place with 15%.
Really? Wasn't? I thought that was tied for second place.
And, we're just doing them all now. Azrael 4%. 5th place in Eczema.
I want to know.
0. Goose egg for eczema or Exuma.
Wow.
Goose egg.
Who knew so much anti-Korean sentiment existed in our ranks?
Racist.
It's
just racism's what it is.
They're all good though. Like legit worth watching. Like no matter what wins, you should watch all of these movies for sure.
Yeah, that might be the way actually I haven't seen Heretic yet, so I can't really say. Oh, actually no, that I like Azrael too. Actually, that might be the place I put them without knowing what Heretic is, though. So yeah, good, all good films, though.
Worth watching.
Good films.
So smile. Damn!
Whatever the fuck
jiggled my butthole a little bit.
My butthole's been jiggled.
More. I'm gonna need more details about the jiggling buttholes, please.
My butthole is jello right now. Azrael's man, like
oh no, what have I started?
you started a lot. Watch Azrael.
Exactly what you wanted.
Check out Azrael on Shudder. I feel like there's some hate. There's some hate.
Oh, it isn't on Shudder right now?
Yeah, it's on Shudder right now. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewatch that actually. I'll do a mini cast since nobody wants us to talk about that one.
Nobody fucking cares. Get your votes in before the end of this month. We'll see what we're talking about.
Nobody gives a fuck.
We'll see what we're talking about this January. We got minicast dropping every other Friday. We just had one drop this past Friday. It was on A Quiet Place Day 1. Juice, this was yours, right? Your minicast?
It was wrapping for my day ones. But yeah, it was it's like a sideways prequel kind of thing. If you enjoy the Quiet Place franchise at this point, there's only 3 movies, but yeah, it's a solid PG-13. I would say it's like a solid one if you're into PG-13 horror. You got a younger audience that kind of needs something. I think it's one of those ones that kind of crosses the boundaries where you could throw this type of horror movie on with the fam around who aren't big into horror films, and I think they'd be down with it. So yeah, it's a solid little flick.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Accessible.
Had some surprising moments. Yeah, accessible. It's accessible.
Very pizza driven, which
it is, which is weird. A weird choice.
I get it. You know,
but
check it
out.
out.
It's set in New York, Randy.
Oh, where all the pizza pies come from. Oh, wait,
yeah. They're walking there and they're eating pizzas.
You know, they're not using the Hudson River water for their dough, and that's the problem.
God damn, I don't think that's what you want.
Yeah, we need more Hudson.
That's a thing. I don't think it's Hudson River water, but it's
they
say the water makes the dough better. I don't think any of that's real, but
I hope not.
I'm doing here. So yeah,
you're doing.
Check it out.
We are doing.
Check it out.
It's on your podcast catcher of choice. That's it.
Oh, the mini cast. Yes.
Yeah, mini cast. That's it. That's all we got for Patreon.
Oh.
Do you guys have plugs? I do not.
No plugs.
I think I'm clean this week.
Are we
all
clean?
Right. Well, if you're all clean, then I suppose
week?
This house is clean.
I think we're clean.
This house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking about The Substance, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
I really, really hope that the back of the box just says the words "watch" or something along those lines in giant typeface.
That's that. What is that, Randy? The Beavis New or something like that? What is that?
Beavis New. Beavis New. Yeah, that's what it is. I couldn't tell you. I'm terrible at identifying fonts, to be perfect.
Oh, okay. But, I thought it was the Beavis New.
Beavis New, man. I love that.
Sounds
I'm going
right.
to make that font.
Sounds right.
That's a font I'm going to invent.
That should be my handwriting. You said you want to make a font out of my handwriting.
Yeah, I'm going to call that Beavis New.
Your handwriting is fucked up.
It is fucked up. It's serial killer writing.
God
the
damn,
fucking snowman has better. It is. It hurts
up my soul.
It looks very harsh.
Men.
It's harsh. It's very
I
harsh.
finally saw the clip about we're just normal men. That shit cracked me up.
It's great
I was like, I stumbled across it somehow.
because it's extremely popular online. But
yeah.
anyway.
Suddenly. Anyways, yes.
We started it.
What's
That's
next?
why.
Bob, what are we doing?
Bob, you have a back of a box to read. I
don't.
recall?
So-
Yeah, Bob. What did you order this box?
It's pre-ordered, but it doesn't come out until January, so I don't have it to show. But it's on the way. But we're talking about The Substance, which is a brand new release. It might still be in theaters near you. If not, it's very easy to rent online. It's everywhere. Rated R.
Did you get it in 4K, Bob?
Yeah. I don't have it, but yes, it's coming in 4K.
But you did it. Yeah, and it's coming in 4K.
This
It's
fucking
coming
guy.
in 4K.
It's
You can see
coming
all the
in
details.
4K.
What is that?
That's man.
It's terrible.
We are
going here.
not impressionists. I'm bringing over.
I'm doing the breaststroke in the Hudson over here.
Rob's so drunk,
shit.
he's going to be saying, I killed some accents last night on that show.
Dude,
I was nailing those accents.
I'm going to put it on my reel. It's that
no matter
good.
how drunk I am, I would never claim that.
I got to go back and cut that.
Just
I call bullshit on that.
I'm really talented.
I don't know, man. The Dracula.
That sounds like Bob to me.
Dude.
We're talking about The Substance. There's a new movie, rated R.
No, we're not.
Runtime of 2 hours and 21 minutes. It's a bit of a long movie. Written and directed by Coralie Fargeat, I think. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. A fading celebrity takes a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. Gentlemen, we've seen this movie before. It's a new release. Would you recommend folks check it out? Ray and Deezy, kick us off.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the standouts for the year by my money and by most people's money, it seems like. The buzz around this is worth... It's deserved. I think it's worth checking out for any horror head, anybody who can stomach body horror, and anybody who wants loving, glowing shots of asses and everything else. This is the movie for you.
Look at that shot of asses.
It's just shots of asses.
Let me
There's
get
lots of those in here.
There you go. Juice, what about you?
Yes, but I would generally recommend people check this out, but I do think it's got a lot of things that kind of work against it in some senses of like it's not for general audiences, definitely for sure. And even in the horror realm, it's just got an excessive amount of a lot of things. Time, for instance, it's really long. It's got a lot of nudity. It's got a lot of gore, body gore specifically. So I think there are some things that would make it a harder watch for a decent amount of people. But generally, yes, I would say check it out. This is definitely a banger for the year horror-wise. But it does have some elements that is not going to appeal to a decent amount of people, I think.
I guess the new generation doesn't like seeing yabos, though. That's literally a thing.
No, yeah, I think so, yeah. But Robert, what about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah. Generally speaking, like, if you're listening to our show, that means you're pretty into horror, and I think this is definitely worth your time if you're pretty into horror. Don't show it to, like, your grandma. It's definitely not like gonna please everybody.
My grandma's badass, Bob.
Maybe your grandma fucks, and if your grandma fucks, then she's showing this to you, actually.
Ooh, okay. All right. He was saying grandma fucks. I'm just getting down to it.
All right, well, that sounds like a general recommend from the Straight Chillin' crew. I think it's safe to hit that spoiler warning, boys.
I suppose so.
Spoiler warning.
Oh boy, I'm a little scared to ask, but Bob, do you have that plot synopsis?
I'm a little scared to answer, but yeah. Yeah, I do. Oh, I got it. Here we go. There's kind of a lot that happens in this movie, but
there is a lot. And I'm sure your vision is slightly blurred at this point.
It's very
I hope
sharp.
you can read that.
It's very, very sharp. Okay.
It never is.
It literally never is. You're right. Here we go. The plot of The Substance.
Please don't start.
I never have, and I never will. Okay, on her 50th birthday, Elizabeth Sparkle is fired from her long-running aerobics TV show by her producer, Harvey. She then gets in a car accident on her way home when she's distracted by a billboard of her face being taken down. In the hospital, a young nurse gives her a flash drive advertising a mysterious chemical called The Substance that promises a young, better version of yourself. She at first dismisses the idea, but eventually calls and orders the substance. She injects the single-use activator and her back splits open, giving birth to a younger version of herself named Sue.
Hootie tootie disco kitty!
They must swap consciousness every 7 days exactly, without exception, and Sue must use a daily stabilizer fluid she pulls out of Elizabeth's spine. Sue takes Elizabeth's place on TV and is an overnight sensation. The high ratings lead Harvey to offer her the chance to host the big New Year's Eve program, which she accepts. Sue lives a successful hedonistic lifestyle while Elizabeth becomes a hermit who binge eats and watches TV. One night, Sue brings home some strange for some casual sex, but she needs more time, causing her to extract some more stabilizer fluid from Elizabeth. When they swap consciousness, Elizabeth wakes up with her finger looking increasingly aged. Elizabeth calls the mysterious substance distributor, who says there's no way to reverse this. The balance must be respected. Elizabeth cooks an absolute feast for herself while listening to Sue give a rather pompous interview on the TV, completely disregarding Elizabeth's career. When they swap consciousness, Sue is disgusted by the state of the apartment, and she ends up pulling 3 months of stabilizer out of Elizabeth's back. The day of the New Year's Eve show, she can no longer pull any more stabilizer out and is forced to switch back. Elizabeth wakes up and her body is now horribly deformed. She calls the substance number again and she wants to stop. They send her a termination serum. She injects it into Sue and immediately regrets what she's done because Sue, quote, is the only lovable part of her. She tries swapping consciousness with Sue once more and she wakes up enraged. Sue ends up beating Elizabeth to death before she leaves to host the New Year's Eve show. She's got her gown on and then she's almost ready for showtime, but then her teeth, her hair, her nails, and her ear all fall off. She runs back home and injects herself with the single-use activator once more, hoping for another younger, more beautiful version of herself to appear. But out of her back crawls a monstrous, multi-faced creature called Monstro Elisa Sue. She ends up cutting Elizabeth's face off the life-size photograph in her apartment and wears it as a mask back to the station. She takes the stage surrounded by beautiful showgirls and attempts to address the audience. The mask falls off, and the audience is horrified by what they see. They rush the stage and attack Elisa Sue, knocking her head off, causing her to absolutely drench everybody in blood. Elisa Sue escapes the studio, but collapses on the sidewalk and explodes. Her face is able to crawl away and stops on top of Elizabeth Sparkle's Hollywood star and melts into a pile of goo. A street sweeper then rolls over the top of the star, leaving it nice and clean, and then we roll them credits. There you go. Oh, yeah!
That's good shit.
Oh, my lord.
So much happens in this movie.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I would say that on my first watch, so this got a lot of buzz, and people were, I think, a little over the top about it. And so going in for my first watch, I was going in with that mindset, and it kind of dampened it maybe a little bit for me. It was my own mindset, of like, oh my God, everybody's freaking out about this movie. It's, immediately saying it's the best movie that's ever come out in like a million years or whatever. So I was like, okay. So when I first watched it the first time, I was like, okay. I liked it, but not that much. Certainly not that much. But that was a couple months ago. And so I'm glad I got to rewatch it for this one because that air was kind of cleared a little bit. And I was like, that end scene with the blood is splattering all over the place. It's so absolutely ridiculous that I was just like cracking up to myself about just the process of it. Like, it's so absurd and it's so ridiculous. And it's not necessarily completely on tone with, I guess, the rest of the movie, but I did find it more enjoyable the second time around after there wasn't so much hype around it. Did y'all feel the hype this time around?
No.
You go ahead, Bob.
It wasn't overhyped for me, but I will say so the first time I saw this was in the theater, and it's probably my favorite theatrical experience of the year so far. And for a few reasons. So like I was actually late. I missed the first few minutes of this, and I ran in and sat down in my seat, and then I looked over and our friend Nate was like a few seats over, and we didn't plan to watch the movie together. We just happened to be there at the same time. And the seat turns out after the fact, the seat that he booked, someone else was sitting in it, so he was sitting in a different seat, which if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have seen each other. So like it was just happenstance. Anyway, we watched the movie and
Good
like
beer scenario.
It was sold out. Yeah, it was like kind of an earlier morning situation, but it was sold out. Everybody in the theater was like kind of vibing with the movie. People were sort of like into it. And then like when the climax hit and the blood cannon was happening, there were some older gentlemen that were like sitting up in the back of the theater they decided they had seen enough. They weren't into it. So they got up
2.5 hours in?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like 2 hours into the movie, they're like, oh, this is enough. So they like walked out and they were grumbling like, oh my God, I can't believe they're showing them. Oh my God. But like as they were leaving, like it just made me appreciate it more. Like, I don't know, like most of the people in the theater were like down, but like they weren't. And I get it because it is gross. It is nasty, but it was just like a really like awesome theater experience. I think and that plays into my appreciation of the movie generally.
Didn't that happen? Didn't that exact situation happen to you in another movie this year where a bunch of old people left much earlier? I thought you told like that exact same story.
No,
maybe it was about this. I mean, it was
just
maybe, but why would he be talking about this movie?
Just the substance.
Because people were talking about it on the Slack and stuff.
Oh, maybe. Okay, yeah.
This was a couple months ago when this first came out. So
yeah, I guess
it's been a minute. Yeah.
Well, to counter that, my scenario with the first viewing, my theater watch was not bad necessarily, like in and of itself, but like it was during Hurricane Helene where I was incommunicado with some of my family and I literally had to stop and go outside the theater like 3 or 4 times to take 10-15 minute phone calls. So I missed a lot of the movie because of real life shit. So I was having a terrible beer scenario that day.
That's about as bad as it gets.
I was pretty psyched to rewatch it. I was also going into it originally, Juice, with the same mindset as you, or mostly. I was like, okay, I'm open-minded here, but I'm also not going to let the hype overwhelm me and make me think that this is going to be the greatest movie I've ever seen. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let the chips fall where they lay. And I definitely enjoyed it better the second time, but it's really more due to that pressure not existing during this viewing about like the hurricane and all that stuff. So I don't know. Like to me, like it's crazy to me that these guys you talked about, Bob, walked out at that moment, because to me, like there's so many other moments of this movie that are like grotesque and like visceral feeling, and that's the part where it feels like a fucking Nickelodeon cartoon. Like it feels like fucking ridiculous to the point where it like just amps up things to the like 11th level, you know what I mean? And I don't know. It's like if you got through that other stuff, this is the part where it's like, gack is flowing and shit. Like this is the least realistic gore you'll ever see at this point. It reminded me of the end of Suspiria 20 whatever, the
18.
remake.
Yeah.
And where it just like the fever pitch of everything that happened is like hilarious and like it impacts me positively because of that. So it's crazy to me that that's where they drew the line at the point where it became so insane that it can't possibly be confused with like, I don't know. To me, it's like reality. It can't even be disgusting. It's just like silly.
It's too fantastic. It's not real at all. Yeah.
The lady's face crawled. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, most of the movie is not necessarily like that. So, I mean, there is a big tone shift at the end, which I am kind of conflicted about. It's entertaining, but I mean, that type of absurdist tone is not necessarily kept throughout most of the film. And one thing that this film reminded me of in several elements was Requiem for a Dream. Reminded me a lot of that in the editing style, but also in a lot of its kind of themes. Like the way we follow the main character really made me think of the mom a lot in Requiem for a Dream. But yeah, it reminded me a lot of that, but like kind of like an updated version and a more polished version. And but I found that those kind of like darker themes, even though they're not played as darkly as they are in Requiem for a Dream, but somewhat consistent with that, and for this ending to pop off in this kind of way, I definitely could see it, like, I don't know, really being the final straw for some people. I could see it.
I mean, I agree that like things really pop off in a big way at the end, but like I think there's a pretty good ramp up to that, and I think that the bulk of this movie is so technicolor, like non-reality. It's so dreamlike in so many ways that it's not at all like Requiem for a Dream in that way. Some of the topics are maybe touching on similar things. There's definitely some similar shots, like the following from behind shot
there's a lot of dilations,
a lot of eyes,
and shit,
and which I mean makes sense for this body horror when like the eye pupils split and shit. Like that's incredible stuff. But like just the technicolor of it, all that stuff. Like to me, like it really seemed to ramp up to what had to be a giant, insane scene. So to me, it was like it was giving me what I had built, what the movie had built me up for by the ending.
I was surprised by the ramp at the end, to be honest with you. Like I did expect some sort of like grand finale, but not to that level. I did not see a blood cannon happening. I did not see a giant creature like puking out like a tit,
stapling a mask
in
the mask.
Dude, that face is fucked. It's like popping out of the body, the like side face or whatever.
It's like
that shit freaks me out. Like, that's like permanently screaming. It's fucked up. And like the holes where she puts the earrings and shit. Oh my god, that shit's
her
gross.
Eye socket turns into a tit that just falls out. Like that's insane. Like to me, like that, you said it right, Bob. Like I was expecting them to go big at the end. Like they have to take this, like they've gone so big throughout this. They've surprised me with how high they've gone. They've increased the level incrementally with every like piece of body horror that they go into. So I'm expecting like a big finale, but like the level of that finale where there's like tit eyeballs and a lady stapling a car cut out to her face and everybody just buying it, like those things, like, and her having or even earlier than that, Sue having no teeth or whatever in the elevator with that guy, and he's just having a whole conversation entirely for his own benefit that she's not even hearing, like, and it's totally fine. Nobody bats an eye. Like that's the unreality that like is slowly permeating the whole film to me. So I approve.
I was just going to talk about Dennis Quaid. Because we hadn't really touched on him. I thought he was like a really, really great character in this movie. The way that they really focus, like hyper focus on his mouth when he's like eating, talking, smoking, having conversations. Like he's presented in this way that he's a consumer. He's like constantly like just consuming and sucking and taking credit for things, whether he deserves it or not. Most of the time, not. Just sucking. He's sucking. Just mostly.
Get the juice now. Constantly sucking.
I love how they treat his character. And like at the end, when Margaret Qualley's like walking through the hall and her teeth are falling out, and he's like, "You should smile. Pretty girls should always smile," and she literally can't because her teeth are falling.
Pretty girls should always smile.
Dude, it's just like the cherry on top of his character. Like he's such a loathful piece of shit. And in that moment, it's just like crystallized in such a perfect way. I love his character. I love his character because he's so easy to hate, I guess.
Yeah, he's like an incredibly repulsive person, unrepentantly so. Like even from the jump, like I missed the first time I watched this movie, basically his character introduction, where we see him taking a leak and Elizabeth overhearing him talking shit about her. But like even from that moment, like every single thing that he says and does in this movie is the most brazenly self-serving, self-flagellating, or like jerk off bullshit you'll ever hear in your life. Playing it so big, like everybody is in this movie. They're all playing it very every character, every actor is being told to like ramp up beyond reality a little bit, and he's going way back beyond reality right from the beginning. I really enjoyed his performance a lot because of how like obscenely ridiculous it is.
Yeah,
I don't know. Him eating the fucking crawdads was one of the more repulsive things in the movie, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, just slamming shrimp. It's pretty fucking disgusting, honestly. But yeah, he plays it well. Apparently, that guy's kind of a problem in real life too. But I don't know. I don't know him.
I don't know anything about the man.
Yeah,
but I think this movie is rich with themes. Like anytime I was thinking about like this one theme, but I like it just there's another and another and another and another. We have the obvious things of, the idea of aging and beauty, and especially for women, like how it is essential just to maintain like, your respect and status. But even like further than that, it's like, addiction and I don't know. There's like so many. Like anytime I think of one, I think of like three other ones. Honestly, like self-hatred and kind of this
that's the core of everything.
This addiction. But yeah, I think the one that it beat you over the head with, especially with the end scene of how grotesque she becomes, is the idea of beauty and acceptance. For women, the idea of like pretty girls always smile, or those things are very on the surface. But even the conflict that she has with herself, where she's this grotesque monster and she goes to kill the piece of herself that is doing this to her, and she's so far gone, she's so horrid and disfigured that there's no going back, and she's still maybe willing to consider keeping her alive. She saves her, she injects the black shit into her heart and then doesn't do it all the way and saves her, and then they fight. But yeah, it's weird though, because in some ways, like it's really strong. I feel really bad for Elizabeth, but even in that moment where it's really hitting that element of, I'm so far down, my body is destroyed, and I can't let it go. I can't let this beauty go, even though I'm not participating in it. It's like me in a way, but at the same time, it does take a little bit of that edge off, that like there's this grotesque monster body with the saggy yabos hanging out. It's just, I don't know, it does take a little of that edge off in those kind of moments.
Well, that's how she perceives herself, like if you were going to be metaphorical about it, these like extremely impossible beauty standards that nobody can really hold themselves up to, especially if you're like 60 years old like Demi Moore is. Like, it's just these impossible beauty standards, and then the way this movie sort of presents them, I think, is sort of two sides of the same coin. Whereas, like, you are invited to the table, you're invited to participate, you are empowered as long as you meet these impossible beauty standards, and as soon as you don't, you're no longer invited to the table. You're kicked out of the club. You can't have these conversations. Nobody really cares about you anymore. So, like, it's interesting to see, like, Margaret Qualley's character, Sue, who, like, is empowered. She is respected. She's got money. She's got fame. People care about what she has to do and say. But, like, the second you don't meet those standards, you are fucking kicked out of the club, man. It's like brutal.
Yeah, you have your head broken in.
Yeah, it's brutal to see. It's like this it's two sides of the same like patriarchal coin. Like, as long as you toe the line, you got a seat at the table, man. But once you don't, you're gone.
Well,
it's brutal.
That's the thing. The core thing of this is not just it's twofold. One is the self-loathing that comes with seeing yourself age out of something that you value about yourself, which is your looks. In her case, like that's something that people have. I think people would have a stake in how they look, in just about any society. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has a self-image, and you want it to be positive, whatever that means for the society you're in. In her society, it's been like, in our society, it is essentially what Dennis Quaid wants it to be. It's all propped up, and like it reinforces a box that she herself is willing to put herself into, to the point of self-destruction, to the point of fucking like completely rotting herself from the inside out. And I think that's like if there's going to be one message to take away from this, that seems like the very, very obvious one. Like is just like the self-destructiveness of clinging to something that is not permanent. And like the lengths people will go to try and, you know, retain something that is fleeting. The whole point of youth is that it's meant to be spent and used like life, and you can't just like cling to that shit forever. Yeah. And the fact that we live in a society that demands that you do that convinces convinces people that they have to as well, that's how they do it, because if they don't, they are kicked out. And if they have to find some other way in, they have to be either the smartest person in the room, or more helpfully, the prettiest and most vivacious or whatever in the room. And that's how you manage to stay seated. Otherwise, you're a commodity, and you can be tossed aside like any commodity that we use in America or any other country for that matter.
It's a losing game. It's just a matter of time. You're gonna lose, but when? Like the question is when. Yeah,
but that's kind of like life, though, too. I mean, I'm blown away that Demi Moore. I didn't realize she was 62. Because another thing, like this is a very hypersexual film with a lot of nudity, full frontal. And but I mean, it's kind of the same thing of the show that she does, though. It's at the same time, it's the show that she does is a workout video show, and they do these shots that are amazing, especially once the young girl Sue. Sue comes in and does the shots and the close up of the lips and the thrusting and, you know, all the stuff that goes on in that. And
very horny.
It's this product that's meant for a certain audience to be consumed in a certain way, and it's like in a very logical way, it's like, well, of course, like a 60-year-old woman isn't going to be doing that. Like in the same way that we say, like, nothing lasts forever. Like, people retire from their regular jobs, you know, like, you can't, I mean, like in any faction of life, I mean, you eventually just die. But I mean, there are things that you can't do anymore. There are things that, like, everybody has their time. And so in the same way, it also is that it is just that struggle with the idea of life, aging,
mortality,
changing, not being the focus of attention, being like, she had her success, she lived her life to the fullest, she had it, and
she did not live her life to the fullest. I think that's part of the problem. But I will say the only reason she lost her job, her position, was because she turned 50. And they make a pretty clear statement in the movie to say that, like, you aged out, period. It's not that she can't do the job. It's because she's 50, period. So, like, you know, it's hypersexualized, the show is, and they make it even more sexualized whenever Sue gets the job. Maybe they didn't think they could make it quite as sexual with a 50-year-old on screen, and that's the problem. It's not that she can't do it. It's that I guess she's not, like, getting dudes' boners up when she's doing it, like that.
Well, that's marketable.
That's also too, like, how many shows last? I mean, in a realistic sense, I mean, we give shit on The Simpsons that lasts like for 20 years. I mean, any entertainment is not going to last more than a couple years anyway.
That's not what the movie's about, though. Sure, you can make that point.
My point was no. Yeah, you're right. My point is, another strong theme, though, is about her not being able to accept those things.
Yeah,
is
totally
not being able to accept the idea of midlife crisis or mortality or just age.
Sure. She's put her entire being on that one success, and when that is taken away, she essentially has nothing.
Well, when you value yourself the same way that society sees you, and it is fucked up, then you have a fucked up vision of your own value, and that's what's happening here. I think about that guy. I don't know if you guys are aware of this story, but there's this, I forget what he does, like some sort of tech billionaire type guy or whatever, who has been very publicly talking about trying to become infinitely young. He's like in his 50s or something, and he's like injecting 18-year-old men's blood into himself and doing all kinds of like insane, like fucking Howard Hughes shit to try and stay young.
Dude, it's
I'll
die.
Like, I don't remember his name, but
I don't need to live forever.
But that's the thing is like, and that, again, like that goes back to the idea I was saying, like if there's no value to it to begin with, if you don't have an end point, like you want to, like you don't want to end tragically. You want to be able to use the time you've got well, all that stuff. And that's something to fear. But the idea of like wanting to live forever, like that's like a constant story in fiction, which is people get what they want in everlasting life, and it sucks because they watch other people waste away. They watch the heat death of the universe, and they just have to sit back and enjoy the ride, I guess. And they never get an end point. Nothing they do matters. Nothing they do to people matters. Nothing that happens to them matters. It creates a world of nihilism. Whereas having the end point of an unsure death at some point in your future creates value to your life, and people stop seeing that and instead focus on celebrity or having money or whatever. Like they see those things as the golden ring, when instead the golden ring is living a happy life with the years you are given. So I think that's true, that is something baked into this. I don't think it's like the top level of the thematic chain here, because I think that like beauty standards and stuff are so top of mind throughout the entirety of this thing that it can't top that in terms of like level of importance to this movie. But I don't know, man. All this shit is just geared towards something that you cannot be attained, and people are willing to destroy the time that they do have in order to try and attain it. And that's insane. Like that's what I think this whole movie is.
If you do attain it, it's impossible to keep. It's a matter of time before it's gone.
Well, it's
a losing game. Like
that's unattainable. You won't attain it.
There's no way to win for sure. And like it sucks to like watch this character who is talented, who is beautiful, but who only views herself through this like matrix that is like set up via the patriarchy, and like she won't like view herself outside of it in any way. It's like heartbreaking.
Well, because she also centers her life that way. She literally her apartment faces a billboard of her own face,
and she's got a huge photograph of herself behind her. Yeah, she's like sandwiched, literally sandwiched.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just, and that's why I said it's so layered. Like there's so many pieces of it, because it's not just the idea of like the patriarchy, but it's the lifestyle too, the fame, the respect, because she has this one person who she comes into contact with, this man who like essentially worships her, but he's not up to her standards. Like he's not up to her.
I don't think that's fair
lifestyle.
Maybe at first, I think you're probably onto something there, but then she realizes that, like when he asks her out on a date, I think she realizes like, oh, he's not necessarily seeing me as like a star. He just sees me as like a pretty woman. Like it seems like more, and maybe I'm off here, but it seems more like on a human level. And then whenever she decides to actually go on a date with him, it's because she's not meeting her own standards that are truly set by other people, is why she doesn't go on a date with him. Like she psychs herself out. She gets in her own head and decides to not go meet.
I don't know. I think you guys are kind of both. I don't think either one of you are wrong here. I think that what has happened with that guy, like I think he's kind of he's kind of a nothing. He's somebody from her past who existed long before she was famous, and who also seems very excited that she is famous or has had some fame. He's very excited to be talking to a celebrity. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe you called me. And like she did that at a moment where she was not feeling loved by anybody or anything in her life, including herself. And she made herself up. She walked outside into her living room and looked across the fucking street, and there's an image of Sue looking sexy as shit and young and vivacious, all the things that she wants to look like, all the things she just put on makeup to appear like, and she can't meet that standard. So she is unwilling to even meet this guy. I don't know what this guy's intentions were, because like this guy is the only person willing to give her any attention or love in that moment. That it's coming from a source that she doesn't see as worthwhile as a source of love. Ultimately, it's not as valuable as the kind of love that Sue is getting, which is an adoration of legions of people and like primetime TV spots and all this other shit. Like, she's not getting those things. She used to get those things. Now she's settling for this, and that's what, like, I think gets into her head and twists her around and says, like, well, then it's not worth anything.
I did not get that at all, honestly. I thought she was like just absolutely beating herself up because when she's about to leave, she keeps looking in the mirror and like changing her makeup and changing her hair and her outfit and like trying to get herself up to like whatever impossible standard she has set in her brain before she goes to meet this guy, and she can't do it because she's like 60 years old now and just can't do it. So when she like wipes her makeup off in like that really like painful looking way, like she's really like being mean to herself. I don't think that has anything to do with him not being up to her standards. It's her not being up to these like impossible standards that other like piece of shit people have set for her. I don't think it has anything to do with him.
I don't think she's reacting to that. I think she's actively embracing that by not going. If she was actually like having this thought, I can't believe I'm letting these people influence me this way, she would have gone on the date, but she didn't because she feels I think, at least in part, she feels unloved still. Like this is a desperate move for her. She feels the desperation of that move, and it's desperate because she's meeting a guy that otherwise she wouldn't have anything to do with. Up until that day, she never would have had anything to do with him. She
didn't even think about him until she was at her absolute lowest point. And she's so here's her choices is she can be herself and take the low road, which she doesn't see as good enough or respectable for her, or she can take the drug and be the complete center of the world, get the attention, get the fame, get the beauty. And she chooses that road. She wants the high life because that's what she's always had, and that's part of the addiction too. Yeah, that's part of the addiction. It's like she's had this life, and absolutely people are objectifying her or using her, but she has also used it to gain this lifestyle. She lives in this high-rise apartment. She has this notoriety. She uses that. Like when she meets the guy, you can tell there's like this disconnect, the way that she thinks about herself in society. She loves to be adored. She loves to be watched for her body, for these things that give her like this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what she can't let go too. It's all together. And it's like, so and it's affected her. Yeah, it is. And that's why I say it's so rich, because even on top of that, separate from that, this kind of like metaphor, even from like separating like youth and beauty and wealth and fame, but this drug addiction of the two lifestyles that she leads, where one is just completely about partying and like the sexy clothes, and then the other one is just like self-hate, loneliness, isolation, binge, like this deep depression of just like completely isolating yourself, completely binging yourself on food, completely binging yourself on television until the party begins again. And then Sue comes out, and then it's all like party, party, party. And
she still resents it too. It's like a manic depression almost. And like, there's a lot, I agree, like that there's a lot to it. I think that like, in that particular scene, not to harp on that one scene like for too long, we've already have, but like when she's walking out the door, the way that the camera works in that scene, they are centering. They show her looking at Sue, and then she goes back in and wipes her makeup off and starts doing foundation again and starts rebuilding. She has 15 minutes, the clock's ticking, the pressure's mounting, and she goes to leave again, and over her shoulder is Sue Sparkle's face on the billboard looking at her, and she stops dead in her tracks and goes back in and then starts getting violent with herself. And like, so I think that it's that. I think it's the fact that up until like that day, she would have brushed this guy off. In fact, she kind of poised herself to do so, but then decided at last minute, because there was not any other love in her life that she was feeling, to go after him, that she was like I don't know, betraying the status that she once had, and rather than embracing the love that she is being offered, the potential love.
That's what I took. We don't know anything about this guy. Yeah, we don't.
So I think it's like a number of things, and I think that like the fact that you can look at it like it's a fucking prism. There's a million different ways to look at this thing, and I really do like that. I think this, like, the top level is about like societal standards and self-loathing. Those are the two sides of the main coin here, but I think that you can dig deeper and deeper, and that's what I want, man. That's what I want out of movies like this, especially movies like this that are so bombastically weird on a surface level. I love that. The way this is shot, like, it's just, like, there's so much to love about it besides even that. Anyway, I don't want to keep going.
Well, I was going to say the two things that we lead to. I mean, even this movie has a couple of, and it's long, but it even has a couple of kind of like conclusions, I would say, or moments that kind of wrap up different themes. She literally has a fight with herself. You know, that's a big scene, you know, where she tries to kill a part of herself. She is unable to do so, and she has a brutal battle with herself that leaves her broken and bloodied and lost.
And dead. Like, she kills her core self, the Matrix. You are the Matrix. You are the main one. She, without Demi's character, there is no Sue character. She can't sustain herself without her. And then Sue's character kills her in retribution. That's your, like, the fame hungry, the societal build part of you winning out of over any humanity you had left. You know what I mean?
Literally
and then
killing yourself.
That starts falling apart.
Yeah.
And then you've got nothing left to do except fucking waste away or mutate, I guess. And then it becomes a whole, like you said, it becomes a whole different ending where it becomes the ending to the societal part of things.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
There's like
where everybody bathes in your blood because they hate the way you look now.
It's like a generational qualm happening in this movie too, where specifically where like Elizabeth is like cooking that like crazy meal, and she's listening to Sue on the TV give an interview, and she's like so dismissive of everything that has come before her in like Elizabeth's show and how like ancient it is, and it didn't really mean anything to her, and just like she's standing on the shoulders of giants, but is unwilling to give any sort of credit to anybody other than herself. And I think that's another sort of layer baked into this movie that's fairly interesting.
That's true. Like literally the line like you wouldn't exist without me is something you could point to like not in the literal sense like it is here, but like you wouldn't have, I don't know, like think about like people like Lucille Ball, like one of the first major female comedians that took America by storm. Like how many like female comedians can you name from before that? I can't name any. Like that certainly not that reached those echelons. And that's just one example of somebody who made a success and paved a road and like carved a path that we otherwise may have gone without for a lot longer. And now we have like, you know, proliferation of like even like right now, quite a lot of like feminine representation in horror. I'm sorry, in comedy. In horror, certainly this year is very dominated by female points of view, I feel like. And we'll go over that in our top 10 of the year next year. But like, there's just, I don't know, there's something. It really does speak to a lot of different levels of both the inner self and the exterior society, and I think that that's the thing. One of the movie's biggest strengths, and that's saying something because it is such a strength, and it's somehow still being competed with by like the visuals, the visual effects of the gory stuff, but not just that, like the blocking, the fact that you like when Margaret Qualley is like inspecting herself for the first time, and it zooms in on her eye to like the iris of her eye. It's so like fucking like music video unreality. Like it's so fucking interesting. You see looking.
The substance, like the yellow liquid flowing around,
like the burning heart that forms when she like comes out of Demi's back, and like the flashing lights and the like that thing that happens as she's like separating. Like it doesn't even go into gore as much there as it does later in the movie. It instead goes to abstracts, and those abstracts are really impactful too. And it's a fucking burning heart. That heart doesn't exist even within the reality of this movie. It is just a visual way of representing like a new young life has been reignited. You know, that it's like it's poetic and not reality. And I just love that. I love that this movie embraces that sort of poetry rather than sticking to reality, because so many movies it's like the default is like adhere to reality. If somebody wouldn't act that way in real life, don't put them in a movie acting that way. And if they do, they better be, you know what, like there's a million like things I've critiqued movies for that are based on this movie isn't realistic, and realism is not the only way to make art, and this movie does something different.
Yeah. I mean, I to go back to like the generational thing, I think that's one of the things too. I said it before, and I maintain that like Sue is very like easy to feel bad for in this film. Like you really, it's easy to sympathize with her and to kind of understand where she's coming from. But at the same time, I think it plays both sides well in showing like the logic in herself as well. And we talked about like the self-hatred and like the kind of substance abuse and stuff. But it kind of reminds me of that idea of, even though like Sue is like trashing her and putting her down, but at the same time too, I mean, it really feels like that's you know, it makes me think of when you have a band, like to talk about things music wise, where like a certain decade is dominated by maybe like a certain sound, and then a new sound starts to develop, and the old guard kind of like starts to like shit on the new guard because they think it's like not as good, but without recognizing that idea of like, it's a part of life. Like youth comes up, they want to separate themselves from what came before, they like take a different approach, and the old guard doesn't want to feel old. They don't want to lose the attention. They don't want to feel like, you know, they're not relevant anymore, and so they become defensive of it. And that type of defensiveness is its own toxicity, whereas like you have other people who are very not only like accepting but like encouraging, where I think of like David Bowie, for instance, who would come out and, you know, talk about hip hop in its early days and how it needed to be more representative on like MTV and stuff like that. And like it's a different personality of saying like, yeah, I recognize that that's where life is. It's letting go of your ego, and like when you try to hold on to that ego and be defensive of it, it like kills you. Like it makes you uglier. It makes you like, because that's how time works. That's how life has always worked. You know,
I agree
always
with you,
comes up in that way. And so Elizabeth has that negativity too. I just want to say it's like she
does, yeah.
Blameless, yeah.
But that again is like a self-construction and a construction of society as well. You reminded me just now of Andre 3000, who is famously just put out like some sort of like jazz album or whatever, and has gone on the record as saying like it's gone on the record as saying something like, look, you know, my time to if I start speaking towards the youth, I'm going to be an old man talking to young kids. That's not what I should be doing. They have people for that. They have their own representatives. I shouldn't be trying to represent an age bracket that I don't truly connect with, like, or that I don't actually exist in. I'm just going to keep making the things that matter to me, and that's, you know, whatever happens. That's like the healthy way of dealing with your aging as an artist. And I agree. Like, I think that there is some of that, and that it's a good point. Like, yeah, the contention between them, it's a self-loathing on a metaphorical level, but it is a generational divide also. So yeah. I agree.
That dude's playing jazz flute now, I think.
Yeah, he is. He just does his
I haven't
own
listened
thing,
to
yeah.
it.
Does whatever he wants.
It's fucking great. Like,
it's like a 30-minute album of just flute music.
I think
compare Andre 3000 to, and I'm sorry, I know this is a horror community, but compare Andre 3000 to Corey Feldman and think it to yourself, what has the most dignity?
Yeah, that's fair. You know, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Or, I mean, I even think about all other kind of artists who just like shit on like the youth, you know, like Guns N' Roses and shit like that. And it's like, it's just this, it makes you uglier. It makes you like, it makes you worse because it is out of this like fear. It's based out of fear of losing relevance. It's based on ego. Like, it's much more respectable to come out and support, you know, and say like, you know, I had my time, I had my success. and people will still like me for what I do. Like it's not like you
or they
lose anything. Yeah. So,
and I think that movie, the Musa movie, portrays that really well, because the core of why Elizabeth treats Sue in that way, from her perspective, is because Sue is being kind of shitty. But even before that, she resents this because she doesn't have it anymore. It goes back to clinging to something that it's about self-loathing as much as it is about anything else. And I think that comes through to people. I think that's why you see somebody fucking, what's his name? Anyway, I can't think of his name, but Dazed and Confused, the characters, they all stay the same age. Like you see that and you go,
Matthew McConaughey,
because it's like, dude, McConaughey, thank you, because it's a weird dude clinging to a youth culture that he does not belong to, and it feels false at its core. Even if he can hang with those kids in that movie because the kids are naive, you as an adult look at this man and say, this is a pathetic piece of shit.
I mean, that is Dennis Quaid's character in this. Like, he is probably older than anybody else we see in this movie, but he's the one kicking the quote old broads out of the game because they aged out. It's a losing game no matter what.
It's like extra. Yeah.
Well, it's a losing game no matter what, because that's life. Like,
no,
you literally can't do anything forever. But
society is society.
Yes, it's
society
both,
has responsibility in of itself too. Like, it's both things. It is both. Life is going to march on, and there's nothing you can do about that. But there is something that society as a whole could do about the way we think about each other. And
absolutely, you could look at in the same bracket. You could look at Richard Simmons. Okay, Richard Simmons was not the beauty standard of what executive producer would think of, like, oh, this is what I'm going to sell. But he was successful anyways, right? But I mean, and that goes to your point of saying, like, okay, well then, he's being a misogynist pig, and he absolutely is. I mean, at the same time, Elizabeth is unable to accept that you're not going to be famous forever. You're not going to be beautiful forever. You're not going to have love and adoration forever.
I think,
and both of those things are true.
I think that's very, like, she's the point that I'm trying to make, probably poorly here, is like, yes, she is not perfect, like, she's fallible, but she's playing by the rules of a game that have been set up by people that are of a different gender, and like,
which is itself
the thing about this is like she can never be the game master here. Like, she can only play the game and lose, whereas this fucking old piece of shit dude can potentially run the game. Like, Richard Simmons could potentially run the game. He's a man.
She could necessarily too.
I mean, there's always.
Not in context of this
fraught example.
There's always outliers for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot in this movie that you can, like. It spawns conversations like this, and that's one of its greatest powers.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally think there's at least 10 deep-seated themes that we could spend hours pulling each one apart. I mean, you could talk about drug abuse, substance abuse, depression, self-hatred, self-loathing. You
just
could talk
Hollywood
about
in general.
Hollywood in general, and the misogyny, the fallacy of it, the addiction to fame, like it starts with the whole idea of the Hollywood star, and like the cleaning of it and the spilling of it, and like people walk over and forget about you. Like, legacy. I mean, there's so many themes that I think are rich in this film that could be pulled apart, that it's you start to kind of like get in this sea of like, well, it means this, but this theme is over here, and in that way, it's a little.
That's what's crazy.
It does track. It is a little overwhelming at times, I think, but for the most part, I think it is handled well. I've never been to the Hollywood.
I think it's handled great. Like, I'll go back to that, but I do think it's handled great in this movie, because like we're able to dissect things. But if you just sit down and just watch this movie and just try to enjoy it purely surface without thinking about any sort of metaphorical anything, it is still fun as fuck. Like, it's still very interesting, a very interesting movie that like keeps you riveted to your seat. Like, I don't know, like or it repulses you away, I guess, in those people's case. But yeah, if you've ever been to the actual Grauman's Chinese Theater and seen the Walk of Fame or whatever, it is exactly what they show. It's like gross. If you've ever been to Times Square and seen a filthy fucking scammer Elmo walking around trying to get you to take photos with them, that is what that is in California. Like, it is exactly that, and it's like kind of fun, but it's mostly just kind of gross and like so many names you won't recognize, so many names I don't recognize, and I think like I'm not like a trivia master or anything, but I think more than the average person, I know a name. You know what I mean? Like, I can identify people, and there's so many names I would have never known. I just, like, you walk over that people spill shit on, and it's like, it's fleeting, just like the lives that were lived getting them there. And so the smart people on that Walk of Fame pivot their lives to center around something else once they've used up the part that has gotten them there. So like Demi Moore's character, they say in one passing sentence that she is an Oscar winner or a nominee or something, which means that she's acted. You can act as an older person. And I know that Hollywood doesn't always want you to be that way, and they will maybe typecast the shit out of you, but there are other things you can do besides this workout show. She's just put all of her value on that, and all of the value that hangs around that is centered on physical beauty. So like everything is centered around this thing, but it doesn't have to be. And that's the core problem for this character. She is unable to exercise herself from that and find value elsewhere.
She's fighting this battle with the foe that she doesn't need to fight. Does it suck? Absolutely. Is that man a piece of shit? Are the standards ridiculous? Absolutely, they are 100%. But at the same time, they don't have to be followed. Yeah, that's part of, like, she doesn't have to be in that game.
But like, in the world exists.
It's like me throwing a fit that they didn't take me as a contestant onto like Sex Island or whatever, where everyone's 20 years old. I still and like red.
You would have been great on that show.
I agree with you. Like she doesn't have to play by the rules, but I think it's also, the movie is interesting enough that like it does highlight that as an issue for sure, but it also like highlights the way that women are like pitted against each other because men want them to be pitted against each other. It's like,
we do,
and women do. Like, like the thing is, like, we're all drinking the Kool-Aid because we all.
It's all like the whole thing is rigged, man. It's rigged for you to just fucking fail.
It is,
and this movie covers so many different angles of it. And that's what makes it so rich and so like intriguing and so like painful to watch. Like, this movie has so much going for it in a way that like it made me think of like Frankenstein. Like at the end, like Frankenstein's monster, like you feel so bad for the creature because the creature just wants to be understood and like accepted and loved. And like that's just not ever gonna happen, and it makes you feel so sad.
Yeah,
at the end of this movie, the same way I feel at the end of Frankenstein. It's just like
this is what great fiction is. It's a lie that exposes truth. You know, that's what the greatest fiction of all is. And so like the fact that these like the way this is shot looks so ridiculous that they show a flaming heart instead of, you know, like the grotesquerie of her coming out of the back, even though they do show that, but like. They show all these, like, none of the, like, it's sci-fi. Like, sci-fi also, like, it exists to expose biases and thoughts and constraints we put on ourselves and potential dangers that we are not recognizing or reckoning with. And this movie does all of those things, I think. Like, it does so, like, and it does them all well. You can like, look at this movie from 100 different angles, and I think it would mostly comport any metaphor you want to lay on top of it. I think that is valid enough will comport to what how the movie plays out. Like, there's not a whole lot of weak links. Like, there's not like I can say like, well, I thought it was about this, but you know, then they had that scene and that doesn't really work. There's not a lot of that, and that's fucking incredible. There's a lot of movies that have layers. Not all of those layers are always rock solid like this one.
Yeah.
I
think we could talk about this. Yeah. I think we could talk about this for quite some time. Any other major points? Just kind of roll them into your rating and review here. Let's go ahead and do this out of 5.
Roll them in.
Ray and DZ, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about The Substance?
I mean, I pretty much just gave my review. I think this movie is like Justin, you called it first. Like it is layered as fuck on metaphorical level. It works on so many, but like the chief among them are the way society views beauty, the way that the self sees beauty, and the way that a person sees their own life and finds value in their own life. Those are the two things that I think that this movie really, really trades in more than anything else. And there's subcategories of that you could look into, and there's even other thoughts that exist in this movie. And I think all of that, I've not found an angle on this movie that hasn't been like, yeah, that's pretty cool, or that's true, or that's smart at least. And then on the complete other side of the map of terms of value for the movie, it looks great. It plays out so effectively and so interestingly. I don't want to look away. Like it's a almost 2.5 hour movie, and I do think that like the runtime can be a hindrance in a lot of cases. In this one, I only felt it a little bit, and it's really just because, like Justin said, it felt like it had multiple endings, but I feel like those endings are justified. I don't know what I would tell this movie to get rid of, so I can't really ding it for that. Ultimately, I think it's inclusive. Until I find those scenes where I'm like, we don't need this. Like every bit of it is additive. None of it is subtractive as far as I can tell. So for me, this is a 5-star film. I have not seen a whole lot of movies that I don't that hit the same levels as this and do it so consistently and surprise me throughout. Even when I'm expecting to be surprised, I'm still getting shocked by the way this movie ends up. The last shot of this movie is fucking unbelievable that it even got there. Like from the first shot to the last, it's resonant and it's unbelievable at the same time. That's incredible. So to me, it's 5-star. I really love this movie. It has room to fall like all movies, but I don't see it falling anytime soon.
Dope. Juice.
Who's next?
What about you?
Yeah, I like it and I respect it, and it could go up more. I think definitely on my second watch around, it evened out more. But some of the positives and negatives. One thing we didn't get to talk about much with the positives is the sound, and not just the sound and the way the music is worked in as well, which is like sometimes similar, but also like different. Because sometimes it works really well with editing as well. I don't know, just the design also too. So like design, editing, soundtrack, it all works actually really. It's crafted very well on multiple elements. It looks fantastic. So those are really good. But some of the negatives, I guess, where I would ding this movie for myself personally is I do think it's too long. And some of them, like having a lot of these themes is impressive. And for the most part, I think they are handled very well. But also, too, I think there are some lingering threads that exist but aren't necessarily addressed in the depth that they maybe should be or needed to if you're going to bring them up in certain kind of ways. And with like 3 or 4 endings, sometimes it feels a little overwhelming. It feels a little too overstuffed. Feels like a pie that's just like bleeding out. You know, it wasn't done.
A pie?
It's like I'm just like it's bursting. There's too much. There's too much
blood.
Too much filling in this pie.
I'm just saying, yeah. Like the filling is good.
The burrito's too full. The
filling is delicious, but it's baking in a messy way because there's too much in there. It's spewing out, so it's a mess. So I do think it's messy. I do think I think there's a little too much, and I think sometimes restraint is also important. So I think there's a bit of that. Too long. The tone shift is still hard for me to accept, honestly. Like in some ways I think it's justified, in other ways like it's entertaining and it's quite funny most of the time, but also too I'm just like I don't know, I'm still conflicted on it, honestly. It's ridiculous. It's quite ridiculous, and they took a big swing on it, and I don't know if it 100% paid off, but I respect it. So Yeah. I don't know. This movie, there's so many things. There's so many things about this movie. Ultimately, I think where I feel about it is I'll give it a 4-star. I do not think it's a 5-star film, but I'll give it a 4-star, but it will get the half-star for the Yabos. There are so many Yabos in this movie. There's so many Yabos. And whether they be 60 years old or in their 20s or whatever, they all look great. So 4.5.
That's the weirdest. It's so weird. This is the weirdest movie we've ever applied that logic to. It's not about any Yabos. they're all equally good.
At one point, like when they do the substance, whatever, she passes out and they just like fall onto each other and they're Yabos. There's Yabos, so many Yabos.
Dude.
So will it change your mind that Margaret Qualley's breasts they're fake? She's wearing like a chest piece in this.
No, not necessarily.
Like for the points, that's for Juice to say. No,
that was my question.
Wait, who is wearing fake breast?
Sue,
the
character of Sue,
Margaret Qualley.
Not necessarily,
but Demi Moore,
yeah,
mad credit for her.
She looks amazing.
She looks great.
For being
62.
She's
that's crazy.
Crushing it.
And also
to do this.
Okay, mad respect for her to be at 60 years old, do a full frontal movie on a movie that's like this obscure
weird horror movie.
Yeah, you don't need
but
to
also
do that. Like,
But also that said, this movie is the perfect movie for her to do it in because the whole movie is addressing this exact bias that we are exhibiting now, which is
addressing her life, I assume, really on some level.
To some extent, maybe. Like, at least kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's to some extent probably.
Yeah, maybe.
To some extent. She's got fucking balls to do this.
Well,
we didn't see those.
I've seen.
I beg to differ. We can freeze frame if we need.
I can't imagine how confident you have to be in yourself to do this role. It's gutsy. Sure. It's gutsy, man.
It is. It's very gutsy. I think it's gutsy for anybody to go partially nude on any movie, pretty much. Yeah. But it's especially rough when it's the movie that you're going nude for is about not feeling attractive in your nudity. Like that tough. Shit is
exposing your body. Like
especially
as or whatever.
And like it's an added level because she was and remains to some extent like she was a sex symbol in Hollywood. Like she is somebody who her looks were very important to her career for a very, very long time.
Bob, do you know why Sue wore a fake breast? Do you know why?
I think the director just wanted her body to be like so impossibly perfect. Yeah, I think that was sort of the motivation behind it.
Okay, that's fair.
Can I say something else too? Like complete aside here, real quick. The name Sue, this drove me mad from the beginning. Elizabeth Sparkle and her younger counterpart Sue. It drives me nuts because Sue to me seems like such an older person's name. And Sue Sparkle is like right there and makes so much sense as a stage name that like, I don't know. It feels like maybe an intentional swap in the script in order to like intertwine these characters in another way. Because to me, like, it just like, I don't know any young people named Sue. Do you guys, like, I know some elderly people named Sue. But I don't know anybody like
I don't know
our age or younger.
People named Elizabeth.
I do. I know several.
Queen Elizabeth. Like, who was old as shit when she died. So.
I know actually like probably 4 or 5 Elizabeths in our age bracket or younger. Yeah.
Neither.
So like,
well, we're old.
And I don't think that's necessary. Well, but like Elizabeth Sparkle, Sue Sparkle is right. If you're writing this movie where everything is glossy sheen, you know what I mean? Everything is like pointed. Everything has a point. Everything seems to be like directed towards something. I feel like the point of like having this somewhat older seeming name on the younger version of this woman that so clearly works with her previous name of Sparkle. I don't know. It to me, like, it just seems like it was an intentional swap. Anyway, I just want to point that out.
None of the 20-year-olds I hang out with are named Elizabeth. Bob, out of 5.
Hey.
Out of 5.
They stay the same age.
What are you going to rate The Substance?
I'm a fan of this one. This is one of my favorite movies of the year for sure. I do think this movie has been criticized by a fair amount of people for just being too blunt, too on the nose. I guess some folks feel like they're being hammered over the head with the point, but I think
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
They're all cowards.
All of them.
I kind of like that about this movie, though. I think I feel the like true frustration and even rage of the filmmaker here. Someone who is just fucking fed up with the system and is willing and feels like they probably need to beat you over the head with their fucking point. And I am just down for that generally. I think that's fucking cool.
Rob likes
it's crazy because he does. We all know that, like
I have a daddy kink. Beat my ass, please.
But like for real though, it's like it's a thing where
Randy, let Rob finish his review.
Okay, that's fair.
Anyway,
we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, we're about to be out of time. Actually, I think that's a really, really I see that as a positive in this movie. I think the performances are just generally fantastic. All the practical effects are fucking incredible. This movie ratchets up to a point that I think when you first put it on, you would initially deem impossible, but it just keeps going and going and going and going, and it just really kind of blows your mind when you finally see how the movie ends, and I'm really, really down for that. I think the score is fantastic. The way the camera moves in between these two different characters when Sue's on screen, it's like very sleek the way the camera moves, and then whenever you've got Elizabeth on screen, it's like more like janky, more I don't know. They just have like these personalities, like the way the film is shot when the characters are on screen. Like the personality of that character is sort of embodied the way the camera moves. I think the Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing really, really works for me. It also has like the what do you fucking call it? The picture of Dorian Gray vibe happening as well with the giant portrait. And I already mentioned Frankenstein. I think this is just like layered and layered and layered in a way that most movies just never can be. And is it too long? Sure, it is. But like I'm happy to sit for it. I don't have many negatives other than I think it does feel too long. But for some reason, like I'm feeling like a 4 out of 5 on this. My score might raise in the future with like more watches, but I'm feeling like a solid 4 out of 5. Great movie, one of my favorite movies of the year for sure. But yeah, I'll land at a 4 out of 5 on this. That's going to put our aggregate at a 4.5. Let's go ahead and jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users have to say.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to ask these gentlemen to guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for The Substance on RottenTomatoes.com. Starting as we usually do with the critics' tomatometer and moving on to the users' poopometer. All right, Bob, we'll start with you tonight. Out of the 342 critical reviews, what percentage would you say are positive reviews?
I feel like this movie's got a lot of love from both the critics and the users. So I think this is going to be pretty high, pretty favorable. I'll take, you know what? I'll take The Boys. 86 Project.
Take The Boys?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. The boys are back in town. Juice, how about you?
I think I'm gonna be a little risky, and I'm on a $1, Bob. We don't do it often. We show restraint, but today I'm doing it. I'm gonna do 87.
Unbelievable.
87. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. There was a real chance at splitting the diff here, I think, but we did the $1, and the correct percentage point was 89, putting Juice just 2 points away from that perfect number.
Sometimes you gotta do it.
Sometimes you gotta do it.
Sometimes you gotta do it.
Sometimes you gotta hell yeah.
Right.
So smile!
Man, my butt.
Let's move on and do the user's poopometer. There's 1,000 plus verified ratings.
That's the brown note bomb right there.
It is the brown note.
We all just shit.
Well,
did we all? So there are 1,000 plus verified ratings on the poopometer, the critic or the user score rather. I started with Bob on the last one. I'll start with Juice on this one. Where do you think those 1,000 verified ratings are going to land?
I don't know. I think it's going to be lower because this one it can be hard to stomach for multiple reasons. But I will go with 80.
80. All right, 80 from Juice. Bob, where are you coming in on this one?
It's a good guess. I think it's going to be pretty positive. How positive? You know what? I'll $1 because apparently that's what we're doing today.
Why?
I'll take an 81.
Oh, Bob's taking a rough stab at this one. All right, taking a retributive stab at this. Well, it's not going to pay off because this one is 75%. So $1 below would have done you some good.
Oh yeah.
75%. So 5 percentage points off. A little lower than I was anticipating based on the buzz I heard, but I guess it's been a little bit now too. So some of that buzz has naturally curdled as it always does. There you go. The critics' consensus reads as follows. Audaciously gross, wickedly clever, and possibly Demi Moore's finest hour. The substance is a gasp-inducing feat from writer-director Coralie Fargeat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either. I think that's all pretty on the money for me.
You guys, did you guys watch Revenge, her first movie?
Yeah.
No. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Yes, I thought you meant. I thought this was Demi Moore's first.
We covered Revenge on this podcast, and I remember when we covered it, I was thinking, "Hell, you'd sweet, Bob."
I can't
Get the juice now.
I can't believe I thought you were being serious for a second. Unbelievable.
That's your never assume such
But
thing.
we did cover it on
Did
the
we?
podcast.
I thought it was a mini cast. I didn't think it was like a full blown.
I'm pretty sure we did. I'm gonna look it up.
We did, and I would trust me.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up, but I'm pretty sure we did.
I used to feel like very, very confident, but now we've done fucking 10 years of this, and I can't remember everything.
Dude, I can't remember what I've just seen and what I've talked about and what I've talked about on a recording. Who the fuck knows? And dear God.
Yeah, it was episode 163, so it was a long time ago. Released May 22nd, 2018.
As I recall, your big complaint with that one was the cat and mouse of it all, which this movie did not really have any of.
Dude, it's worth watching. I think that's still on Shudder. Probably, I think. Check out Revenge.
Probably.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, good.
All right, I'll read one negative review. I know we got the time crunch here. Here's one at random. The film feels fresh in a garish sort of way, in spite of, or perhaps because of, the boundary-breaking horrors that ensue. Eventually, however, the special effects go spectacularly over the top, and not in a good way. Hard disagree on that last line. Hard disagree. It's completely over the top in the best fucking way, in my opinion. All right. That'll do it. Bob, do we have time or any trivia to burn through here?
I do have some trivia. Let's try and get through some real quick.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right, there, boys. Ray Liotta was cast in the film in February 2022, but he passed away in May of that year. He was going to be playing Dennis Quaid's character. They did end up casting Dennis Quaid to replace him, which I think either one would do a fucking bang-up job, honestly.
I could definitely see Liotta doing this job quite well. And I did hear that, and it was like, yeah, this does seem like a Liotta-esque character, but Ray's also played some like pretty dog shit characters in the past that made me like, I don't know, question like, I don't know, not his ability, but like, I think he's like malleable enough to have done this well, but I also think he could have faltered at it. I think Dennis Quaid is like, I wouldn't change it at this point. I think I'm more than happy with the outcome we got.
I think either one probably would have nailed it, personally. In this movie, Elizabeth Sparkle turns 50 years old, and as we've mentioned previously, Demi Moore is actually 59 when she filmed this movie.
I saw 6. Oh, when she filmed it.
Yeah.
It's just another example of older actresses trying to play young women. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh man,
It's
just
like
go to
28.
Really
It's like
their
28-year-old women trying to portray 16-year-old
Right.
high school students.
What's wrong with them? You know what I'm saying?
Man.
The phone number.
Yes, that's what a boy likes.
The phone number for The Substance is 555-0199. Apparently, this is a famous fictional number that appears in many films, such as American Beauty, as well as Lester Burnham's phone number in American Beauty, and then a movie called The Insider from 1999, which I've not seen.
Well, great.
There you go. Demi Moore worked alongside Margaret Qualley's mother, Andie MacDowell, in St. Elmo's Fire from 1985. I've not seen that. Apparently, it is like seminal. Like, really, you gotta see it.
It's one of the big John Hughes. I think it's like the last big Brat Pack John Hughes movie, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. I've never seen it either, but
I gotta watch that. Yeah, it's. I don't know anything about it, but apparently it's pretty important. Sue's first Pump It Up episode is an homage to the music video Eric Pride's "Call on Me" from 2004. Never seen it. Don't know anything about it.
never seen it.
A lot of butts and crotches in that. Oh, we didn't even mention when she pulls that fucking chicken wing out of her belly button.
Dude,
what a great time.
Shit, yeah.
That is
There's no time to talk about pulling chicken wings out of your navel. There's
And
no
the
time
thing,
for
like
it.
with her butt, like when it all shifts around
her
or whatever.
butt is like fucked up, bro.
But I like how they switched like the sexual moments into terrible, horrible body horror moments. That
Dude,
was
yeah,
fun,
when they're
too.
showing like the close-ups of ass while she Demi's digging into the ass of a fucking turkey. It's just
Her
great.
She was
butt
digging into that ass.
fucked up, bro. I love when she's cooking and she's like, scrambling the eggs and the fucking eggs are splashing all over her fucking face. It looks like a murder scene. It reminded me of the intro of Dexter. You remember when he's like cooking breakfast and it looks like a fucking murder scene? It reminded me of that. Anyways, Margaret Qualley confirmed, yada, yada, yada. She was actually inside of the Elisa Sue prosthetics. The creature at the end. That was Margaret Qualley inside of that.
Okay.
Last thing I have here, this was a budget of $18 million and it grossed $78 million at the
Now
box
this
office.
is one I can get behind being successful.
For real.
Yeah, for sure. Good shit. That is all I got for the trivia. Let's go and jump into our Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's character type in a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. I think we've got a couple, maybe. I would start with the producer. Who is it? Dennis Quaid?
Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey.
Dennis Quaid. I don't think we need to look too much further than that, to be honest.
Smug arrogance, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Manipulation, yes.
Oh my god, dude.
Patheticness,
Yeah.
yes. Sexual deviancy,
I think
yes.
so.
No, it's just that was
you had me
pausing
going
for
for a
dramatic.
But he does look really nice, so we
Looks
can't
great.
give him looking at Tyler.
Oh, that plaid suit, man. I'm a fan of a plaid suit.
I like a man covered in shrimp guts, so
Dude,
oh my god, that is one of the most repulsive things I've seen in cinemas.
Dude. But also, I don't know, maybe Sue herself too. So smug arrogance, yes.
Sure.
Manipulation, yes. She games the whole system to keep her locked away for like 3 months. Overall patheticness, I think,
she destroys herself. She literally destroys herself in pursuit of both anger and
sexual deviancy. She definitely uses her sexuality to manipulate sometimes.
I think it's deviant. Though.
I don't think it's deviant.
No,
I think
okay.
she's
She's got it. She's flaunting it. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong.
She's playing the game, and whenever she does have sex, it's very consensual. Also, one thing we didn't mention, I love that fucking scene when she brings the dude home and they're banging on the couch, and the way the camera like rolls up over her ass, and it's like a mountain. Is fucking hilarious.
Yeah. But then also when all that shit spills out of her back, dude, that's so
when they unzip.
It is.
I love that so much.
That's
what I was saying. I like how they turn those like hypersexual scenes into terrible things. Like almost
they
immediately.
The boner dampening in this movie is on point.
Oh, my boner! No.
It's been
Somebody think about Randy's
boner.
Won't someone please think of the boner?
Don't ruin Randy's boner.
Don't ruin it.
It's too late.
But yeah, so I think they are hit, but I don't know if there's anybody else after that.
I mean, Elizabeth's pathetic.
Maybe Elizabeth.
Certainly. Certainly, like to some extent, a little bit manipulative because she's gaming the system herself by doing the substance, by trying to like get in there. I don't know. I think that I think that anybody in this movie is going to pale in comparison to Harvey. Harvey is just like King Cooter of this movie by far to me.
King Cooter.
I mean,
he's on the Mount Rushmore of Cooterdom in my world.
Let's lock him up.
He's running the show. He's the game master. He's
just a normal man, you know.
Just a normal man.
We're just innocent, man.
He's just innocent. Really. Yeah, everybody. We got them all. They're all Cooters.
We got them.
They're all locked up. We got them all. I don't think we have time, really, to talk about what we've been watching, or Hotline Screams, actually. So let's just save those voicemails for next week. But if you guys are listening and you'd like to call in to be featured on next week, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. You guys got any prompts you want to throw out for next week? We're talking about Nosferatu.
Well, this will come out on Christmas.
This is coming out on Christmas Day. Yeah.
What's your favorite Christmas? What? Oh, sure. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if anybody, I have not spent a lot of time in movie theaters on Christmas, but I know a lot of people do, obviously, or else they wouldn't be releasing them in these big releases then. So I would love to know what's your favorite movie you've ever seen in theaters on a Christmas Day or a Christmas Eve or just right in those 3-day zone. You know, give me your Christmas faves. Not necessarily Christmas movies, but movies that released on Christmas. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What are you doing in the theater on Christmas? Let us know. Yeah. Hit us up.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are they doing in there?
I have a good suspicion.
What are they doing in there? I don't know.
I mean, we don't know, but
orgy. Probably.
Maybe we do know. It's not like we all worked at a theater before. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. Let us know what you're seeing in theaters. Merry Christmas, everybody. Like I said, we're talking about Nosferatu next week. Check it out and get ready for the show. Hit us up on social media, Straight Chilling Podcast, everywhere. And until next week, as always, everybody, please keep chilling.
So smile!